Hello and thanks for tuning in to the Black Hat Bushcraft channel. Today I had a very simple woodworking project that I wanted to do, and that is to make a new mallet. This particular one I made a couple years back when I was out on a camping trip, and I found a nice hickory tree that had fallen over and it was still green. So I got a nice piece out of that and carved out this mallet. And I actually really enjoyed using this, so I've hung on to it and I've used it a lot since then. You may even have seen me use it in several of my videos. But I've kind of neglected it a little bit. I left it out in the rain and it's been sitting out in the sun some, and it started to crack out a little bit. So I figure at some point in the future this may fail, so I thought I'd go ahead and make a replacement for it. Also, I had a subscriber who recently asked me, how did I make this? Could I do a demonstration of that? So I thought this would be a good opportunity to film this for him as well, so he could see the process. This mallet has been really perfect for me, so I tried to cut something today. I also cut green hickory, and I tried to get something that was as close in size as I could to the original, because that's been just about perfect. So I've gone ahead and harvested this piece of hickory, and we'll get this process underway. Stick with me. Alright, the first step in making this maul is to create a stop cut all the way around the diameter of my material, which will be where the head of the maul meets the handle. I'm going to try to make a straight line going all the way around first, and then I can come back and make that deeper. And everything in this process is just eyeballing it. No measuring or anything like that. And really the only tools that you need for this job is some sort of a saw to make this cut. Could be any type of saw. And also you'll need I'm going to use a small axe, but you could also use a knife and baton. I just like working with the axe, because I always try to conserve the blade of my knife for things that only the knife can do, or the things that the knife does best, and I try to use my axe for things that the axe does best. So now I've got pretty much a straight cut all the way around. You definitely don't want to cut too deep, because that'll weaken the structure of your mallet. So I'd rather have to come back and do some more cutting later if that's the case, instead of cutting too far now and messing up the project. So I think that's a good start. So the tool that I'm going to be doing the majority of work on this project with is the Gransfors Bruk Wildlife Hatchet. I haven't had this one a very long time, but so far I'm really enjoying this. It's an excellent tool. Alright, the process I'm going to use to get started here is just to kind of bite into the wood to expose better that stop cut that I made. And then that way I can better see what I'm doing when I'm carving out my handle. Whenever I'm carving with a small axe like this, I like to get right up next to the head, kind of choke up to it, so I can make really controlled fine cuts. And of course, with any tool, the key is to have it nice and sharp. And this axe is hair shaving sharp, which is how all axes come from the Gransfors Bruk factory in my experience. I love all their tools, at least the ones that I've worked with. And I'm trying to be really delicate so I don't cut past the stop cut on doing this. Now I would say if you haven't done a lot of carving with an axe, this would be an excellent beginner's project. It's not difficult at all, but it'll give you a little bit of experience using your axe to carve. And I'm glad to practice myself today, because I haven't done a lot of carving with my axe in the last month or two. And so it's a perishable skill. If you don't use it a lot, it does fade out a little bit, because I can tell I'm a slight bit out of practice right now. And choking up next to the head of the axe like this helps you not cut too deep. It's good to make lots of small cuts and slowly remove material, so that way you don't overdo it. Alright, so you can see what I've got. Kind of made this collar around the edge where the handle and the head are going to connect. So now I can see a lot better how to carve down my handle without taking a chance of splitting out and messing up the head of my maul. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is work all this down to create the proper diameter for my hand. Alright, so get started on our handle. Now that I'm going away from the head, I don't have to be so picky. I can make a little bit bigger cuts, deeper cuts, just to get the bulk of the material out of the way. And what I'm going to do is just kind of work these ridges down. Every time I make a flat area on this handle, that creates another ridge, and then I can just work that ridge down. Just like that. Now I can work the next ridge. And this hickory is some hard wood, so it's kind of a chore to work it, but once it's done, it'll make a quality tool. Actually, the handle of the tool I'm using right now is hickory as well. So I'm starting to work back towards the head now, so I have to make some very light, shallow cuts. What I'm trying to do is find here that stop cut, kind of even out the handle here. So right here I want to be very careful that I don't cut too deep or that I don't hit too hard and take off part of the head of that maul. So the most dangerous part of this cutting process as far as messing up your project is when you're cutting back towards the head like this. I just want to kind of neaten that up and get that diameter right there at where the head connects to the handle. I want to make sure I've got that about like I want it to be. And that way too I can figure out if I need to put some more depth on that stock cut using the saw. Definitely getting better. Alright, so I've pretty much got to the bottom of that stop cut that I made. It goes just a slight bit deeper there, but not much. So I'm about where I want to be. I think I'm going to work it down just a slight bit more because I want this handle to be just a little bit smaller in diameter than my old one. That other one was always just a little bit chunkier than it needed to be. So I'm going to try to make this one a slight improvement of the old. I think that'll do it. Just try to clean this up a little bit. Actually, I'm going to clean it up and show you what I mean. See how I've got those little tags there? I'll just take my saw and fit it right into that stop cut where I already initially cut and just kind of clean that stuff off. It'll be nice and neat that way. And in all honesty, this stuff doesn't have to be super neat and nice, just if you want it to be. This is something that I'll hang on to for a while, so I'm kind of trying to take some pride in it and make it nice and neat. But to be functional, it doesn't have to be pretty. I just want it to be pretty. So you can see what I got here. I don't really like that, but I don't think it's going to hurt the structure. And that's it. Now from there, as simple as working this down in diameter. Alright, at this point I'm pretty much finishing up with the mallet. I am going to reduce this in diameter just a little bit more. I did find this little channel in the wood, and I don't know if that's insect damage or if the tree maybe had some type of disease, but I can see the bottom of this little channel right here. It doesn't go very deep at all, so I'm hoping it doesn't really affect the structure of the mallet. Worst case scenario, it breaks and I'll just go back and make another one. These things eventually, you know, I guess eventually it's going to wear out, or, you know, I'll break it down by using it over time. But anyway, I don't think that's going to do anything other than add a little character to it. But all I got to do now is just kind of reduce the diameter of this. Once that's done, you know, I could always come back and sand it out, or just use my knife to kind of fine off the edges a little bit. You could always remove this bark on the head. I'm going to leave it on mine. I don't know why, I just like the look of that. However, when you use it, if you really hammer some stuff, that bark's going to wear off over time a little bit anyway. So I'm going to reduce this down to the diameter that I want it, and I'll show you the finished product. Alright, so this is the finished result of my mallet. Overall, I'm very happy with it. I could definitely come back in here with my knife and smooth the handle out and take off some of those ridges. But honestly, I like the look of it being hewed out with an axe. And also, when you hold it in your hand, those flat spots and ridges actually fit down into the joints of your hand and give you a better grip. So I don't think I'll do anything further with that. I like the way it looks and feels. You could come up here and take the bark off the head, but I kind of like the way it looks with the bark on. This is the original. My goal was to reproduce the original, and I think I've come very close to doing that. And with the original one, I left the bark on, and you could see what part of the mallet that I usually hit with. Obviously, I haven't hit back here at all. And that's nice because you can kind of always work on the same surface. But anyway, like I said, I'm happy with this. This was a probably 30 to 40 minute project overall, from harvesting the materials to carving. May have taken a little extra time because I was filming it with the camera, but overall it's a simple project, and if you've never carved with an axe, this would be a good first project. A mallet's a great tool to have in your camp because you can use it for so many different things. If you do batoning, you can use this to baton, just choke up on it and use it kind of lightly so you're not hitting your knife too hard. You can use it to baton the back of an axe, and that's really a nice method of splitting wood in a safe way. You can also use it for driving stakes in the ground. So there's a lot of different purposes that this maul will come in handy. If you have one, you'll find that you use it a lot. Alright, well, I'd like to thank you guys for taking the time to tune in for this video on how to carve a mallet. It's definitely a good tool to have in your camp, and it's definitely a fun carving project. And for my subscriber who requested this, I hope that that answered any questions that you might have so that you can go through this process for yourself as well. I appreciate you guys' interest and your support, and I hope to be talking to you with another video very soon. And until then, take care, and as always, God bless.